Hi, everyone. I'm old,
I'm bald.
and
And I'm
he's
Gus.
guest. Welcome back. We're excited for episode. Should we just go and call it episode 2? And like one is
I
like,
think it would actually be kind of fun if it was 2.5 and then we were on like episode 300 and a half, 301 and a half.
yeah. So welcome to episode 2.5. Today's awesome topic that we've got to talk about tonight is zombies. It's pretty wide open. There's a lot of stuff we're going to unpack from this. But this particular topic is brought to you by Catherine Sim. Catherine, thank you so much for giving us this topic. We were at practice one day and we said we can literally talk about anything. And Catherine said zombies just without hesitation. So,
And it clicked. It just clicked. From there, the rest is history.
and we've got our first guest, so this should be a lot of fun too. Jimmy, you're welcome. Sorry, guest, you are welcome to talk about anything you would like. And interrupt on our banter at any point.
Sounds good.
So I had the rant last week, which kind of piggyback off of week one, but now I think Jack, Mr. Bald, has a new topic for his rant. Sir, you have 5 minutes. Begin.
All right. Well, I'm just going to preface this by saying I don't know if this is going to be polarizing or not. You know, it might surprise me and everyone might be on the same page, but we'll see. So what frustrates me a lot of the time is when you go to a restaurant and it might be half hour before close or something like that. Not a sit down restaurant usually, just somewhere you go, you order, you pick up your food and you leave. Why is it that anytime you go into a restaurant within an hour of close, the customer service immediately plummets even though they're still on the clock and they are still getting paid to do their jobs, but you're the bad person for coming in within an hour of closing? Now, I work at a restaurant, so it's not like this is completely, like, I'm completely biased, you know? Like, I know both sides. If you go into a restaurant during the time that it's open, the customer service should be the same. That there should be the same selection. You shouldn't be able to tell someone, oh yeah, sorry, we put that away, we turned off the grill, or, you know, sorry, we're closing soon, you can't get that. You know, I get it. When I work in the kitchen, I want to get home too. But it literally says, if we're open till 9, why would we not give people food at 8:30, 8:45, 8:55? I'm still getting paid during that time. So I'm supposed to still get paid and not give them food? I know a lot of people feel the same way about this, but there's probably a lot of restaurant workers who are like, this guy's a traitor, this guy's a moron, and they're upset about it. This is extremely evident in certain cafeterias, in my experience. You can't go 5 minutes before close because they're like, oh, sorry, we already put everything away. It's like, I live on campus. Like, there's nowhere else to get food here. What do you want me to do? I was here before 8 o'clock. It's just, it's asinine is what it is. And I'm here to take a stand. That's all I have.
Okay, moving on. I could go. We're gonna move on. I could go deeper, but that's not the point. You had your rant. You had your moment. Your gears were grinding. So before we move forward too much, so I'm in a different location than I was last week. Last week, my wife thought it was hilarious. But last week, every 10 minutes, I had to stand up and wave my arms because my lights would turn off in the office that I was in. My wife thought it was fantastic. So if you're a part of the show that enjoys that, I'm sorry, not going to get it this week.
Here's a creative and expensive solution to fix that. If you just bought a Roomba and then like sprinkled a bunch of like crumbs all over the floor and then you turned it on when the show started, it really shouldn't be an issue. So, but I don't think Roombas are cheap personally. I mean, regular vacuum cleaners are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Never had a Roomba. I've never seen it. You know, I've never actually known anybody to own a Roomba. Have you? Either one
I
of you?
have,
No,
personally.
I don't think so.
And it was funny because it was in a small apartment too, like small. And I was like, literally would take you 5 seconds to vacuum this.
It's the lazy of all lazy. I mean,
People do Roomba duels. They strap knives to their Roombas and then they put a balloon on the back. And the
Oh,
first Roomba to pop the other Roomba's balloon wins. Did you
yeah,
know
I've
that?
seen that.
Yeah. I figured you would have seen it. It's got Barstool written all over it. So
all right. So zombie, where do we start with it? Ooh, my camera just went in and out. Where do we start with this? So, I mean, I did a bunch of research on the origin. Do we want to start with that? Do you guys want to hear kind of where zombies, like where the whole idea came from?
Go for it.
I've found multiple origins, so I'm happy to hear your origin.
Okay, so there's a number of them. I think the true origins go way back. I mean, there's you go back into the Bible in the Old Testament, and they talk about like the dead rising from the grave, which is essentially zombies, right? So that's the basic premise is that you die and you come back. Beyond that, you could attach some things like they mindless, eat people, all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of where some of the origins came from. They also talked about like in ancient Greek times, they found grave sites where people were buried in these caves and then they put large rocks on top of them because they were afraid that would happen, that they would rise from the dead. So they were fearful for it. So so there's that. But the origin of what we think of as zombies today comes from Haitian voodoo. So they would, in voodoo ritual, certain voodoo rituals, they would give people like neurotoxins, essentially the neurotoxin from the puffer fish, and that would make them basically go crazy. Like they would have no thought process. They'd be really wobbly too. So it'd be like basically like you're really drunk. So adding to the alcohol piece from last week, they have their library card. But like that's where it went, and then it evolved into like adding into the Dracula Frankenstein story. And so when Dracula and Frankenstein kind of became a thing, they added zombies into that mix. And essentially, right, Frankenstein is a zombie, right? Yes, no.
Yeah,
I'll
I'd
go.
say so.
So it's toss up. So
I'm going to say no to that, actually.
that's well, why? Okay, tell me why. Tell me your reason why you think he wouldn't be. Because so you're creating your own definition for it then. So I want to hear what your definition is.
So as part of my definition, I would say that a zombie is, it doesn't have to be in a group, but it has to like be able to occur in some way naturally. Now, Frankenstein is an experiment, right? He's reanimated through like experimentation and all that. So like by that definition, are the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park zombies?
But they weren't dead to begin with. So he's still parts of dead people or was a dead person, depending on your version of Frankenstein. And it's actually let's use some semantics here. It's Frankenstein's monster. Not
there it is.
So there's a difference. But he's still parts of dead people. So they were dead and brought back to life. So I don't know. I guess the dinosaurs were dead and they used their DNA, right?
And in the philosophical idea of like the self, they use multiple pieces of different people, right? Is that how Frankenstein's monster is?
Yeah.
So it's not one person.
It's a dug up grave, right? I think he dug up a bunch of graves to like put the pieces together and then reanimate.
I don't remember. You were there, right? So you would probably remember.
Yeah, I think I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
when that happened.
probably about right.
Jimmy,
thoughts?
No, 'cause I was trying to think of like the mountain from Game of Thrones. Like that's kind of like a Frankenstein.
Good.
So I was trying to think of like, do I consider that a zombie? But when I think of that, I don't think of him as a zombie. But was he fully dead is the question. Because like they tried to save him before he died, and that's when that one guy did all that experimenting in him and turned him to just like mind control.
Yeah, Qyburn or whatever. Yeah, the
Qyburn,
Mason-
yeah.
yeah, that. So, yeah, he never died completely.
Good point.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd consider him a zombie for that because I think you have to fully die and then come back.
Yeah.
Right. So, because some people tried to tie in some of the research I was looking at, tie in like vampires. Do they die? They don't really die, right? Because they turn into a vampire. They don't actually die, or do they?
No, I don't think so. Because like I'm thinking of, have you seen the movie Lost Boys?
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite movies from the 80s.
Yeah. So like that they don't die there before they turn into a vampire, right?
No, they just go into like a transitional phase. Like they just
Yeah.
transition into being a vampire. Interesting.
So I don't think so.
So yeah, I mean, like, so I can get what you're saying in terms of like Frankenstein. Maybe he's kind of like a middle ground of like
A gray area.
yeah, it's very gray. But like man, especially in the last like 20 years, the whole culture behind it had like gotten crazy. It's huge now. It's like go on to the best way to see this is you can go on like Netflix and find a few and Hulu and find a few. Go on Amazon Prime Video and just type in zombie movies. There are hundreds of zombie movies. Most of them are from sci-fi, so it'll be like zombie strippers or like zombie versus a tornado or like these just like there's all kinds of crazy ones.
I'm color me intrigued about zombie versus a tornado. I'll have to add that to the list. How would he win that? I don't know. How would they win it? But does that say something? It's starting to get abstract here, conspiracy theory wise. But does Jeff Bezos have something to do with the zombie plan? He's so obsessed with zombies that Amazon is loaded with zombie movies, and Netflix and Hulu are like, who cares? Jeff Bezos is like doing his research about this.
Could be, but there's lots of other random crap on Amazon Prime. Like just go on there and search anything. There's so many weird movies that are so obscure on that, or weird TV shows or series or things. So, kind of coming back to getting back on track is they said that the reason the 1960s when what was his name? That's George Romero is the one that started the first like Night of the Living Dead or whatever, and that was when the true zombies in movies really started to kind of take off. That came from the dropping of the atomic bomb. So like people started to like realize that could happen and they'd have to like survive and find a way to survive, and they'd maybe have disease and all that kind of stuff, and then that kind of went into zombies from the radiation that had happened and trying to survive from all that. And so he took that and went with it and created the whole zombie culture, and then that sort of expanded from there. But they talked about like the 60s, 70s, and like maybe early 80s is when his movies were really big, and then it just was nothing for like 20 years, 25 years, and then all of a sudden it kind of came back. And there's a few theories out there, but nothing's like concrete as like why did that happen. It's almost like people just got bored. They're like, bring that back up. But
so let me pose a question. Given the fact that there's like the Romero zombie, like the slow moving, like I think it's like you can only kill it by burning it. Then there's like Walking Dead zombies, or like you can only kill it by destroying its brain. There's some zombies that you can kill them by decapitating. Some are fast, some are slow, some eat brains, some eat whatever, like deer and stuff even. If zombies were real, what do you think realistically would be the most accurate picture of what it would be like?
well, I'm gonna let the guest take over. I've got a really good idea, but I'm gonna save it.
I mean, I guess like to be simple, they would just in every single kind of like villain, they're just trying to take over, like that's from not our species. They're trying to take over and like make their species the number one species. So like what I would think is they're just trying to just take out as many of not their species as possible. Kind of like the Night King, like his main goal was to make everybody like dead and just they ruled the world at that point. So that's like the first thing that comes to my head. I don't think they'd specifically want to eat brains or certain part. I think just their overall goal would be to just take over the world as their own race.
You know, I tend to agree with that for the most part, but I don't think, were there a virus or something, I don't think zombies would have like the intelligence or
But
the
without a
plan
leader,
to
like a
achieve that.
leader to like
So
tell them what to do.
if there was a Night King who had those kinds of powers, obviously for the Night King in Game of Thrones, his plan was win. You know? So especially because you don't even know if everyone died in Game of Thrones and then became whites. Did they care? Like, were the whites happy? We don't know. I mean, they looked miserable, but we don't know. Maybe that was just an empty.
They were mindless. They were just, yeah, just, well, and so I think, and Jack, I talked to you about this earlier this week. So I watched a newer zombie movie. It had a slightly different premise, and it was called The Cured. What was the name of the actress that was in that? She was the one that she played in Juno. She was Juno. And she's been in like a number of other movies. She was in like Inception and all that. So she was in this movie, and it was based in Ireland, and it was essentially a parasite. And it was like a sort of a strain of the rabies. So like a rabies strain that they didn't really have mindfulness of what they were doing. And then they came up with a cure, and they were cured, but they could remember everything that they had done before. So they were eating people, they were attacking people, they still had normal function bodily other than the mind. But come to find out, they were working in packs. Over time, they started to work in packs because it was familiar. So the virus knew that somebody else had the virus. So they would, after they were cured, they could walk straight through a group of other zombies and not be attacked because the virus was recognizing the virus. Right? So that's kind of what Jimmy's talking about, is it's, even though it's not necessarily that they're being controlled, but they recognize each other and they're accomplishing the same task. They're still trying to take over that isn't them.
Game respects game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like The Walking Dead, right?
Well,
they don't attack each other, do they?
Well, The Walking Dead is.
They can smell it in The Walking Dead. They smell other zombies. Is how they can tell the difference.
Yeah, and so like
when they start rubbing them all over each other, they can run through them.
Yeah. So they could smell the human or the living flesh. I don't know. Like what was it they were smelling? I watched all of it, and I still don't. What are they actually? Is it the pheromones? Like that's the best thing I can think of.
Here's a quick Walking Dead critique while we're there. Why did they not use that strategy more? Because in season 1, they rub themselves with zombie parts and just walk through the city.
And then they stopped
doing it. Don't use that ever.
They did. So they do in like season 10 finally. Like they went like 8 seasons and that wasn't even a thing.
Oh, that's great writing. Like they just forget. It's like a Harry Potter movie.
I'm not going to talk about the writing. Writing,
you know what,
was terrible for a long time.
Well, don't they have like 5 different writers for like each season? So that's why it kind of doesn't go in together too well.
They do, and now they're starting to cross over. They've got all these different, like they've got Fear the Walking Dead. They've got like it's all based off the comic book series too, because there was this whole comic book series behind it. And so on that, it's a whole universe. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the same concept that they have. They have a Walking Dead universe. So
because Fear is West Coast, right?
Yeah,
The Walking Dead is West Coast. And
yeah, so it's like
Walking Dead is like Southeast.
Yeah, it's like Atlanta area, I think, in Georgia, and then like the other one is in like Texas and Mexico.
Texas.
But it's the universe itself is different. So like, for example, they've never called them zombies because they don't know there's no such thing as zombies in that universe. It's never been a thing. So that's the difference within that universe, which is unique. Like we couldn't imagine that being a thing or not being a thing, but so when they saw like people walking around that were dead or like missing limbs or whatever and trying to eat people or things, they're like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I enjoy like shows and movies that don't use the term zombie and they have like a different name from like walkers or white walkers.
Or
I know that.
what do they call them in Maze Runner? They call them cranks.
Yep, crank.
Yeah. So that actually kind of is interesting. So do you think that the characters in The Walking Dead would have acted different off the gun when the whole like virus started spreading if they lived in a universe where zombie movies were normal?
I don't know. So here's another interesting piece to that. So in my research too, and I remember this being a thing a while back, but in 2011, our US government, the CDC, created a zombie survival website. The CDC did. It still exists. You can look it up. And it has like
Just to be safe?
things you would need. Well, they say that so zombie culture like took off in 2008 or whatever is when Walking Dead came back out and everything kind of took off again. And they said it actually helped people become more prepared for actual like pandemics or like apocalyptic events. Because they made it was kind of funny, but at the same time, they put actual things on there, like make sure you're packing water and batteries and candles and food. And it had all this list of things like your zombie survival kit. But then they were talking about like, have an action plan. You're going to go to here. And if the zombies attack, this is what you would do. So it was silly, but it was like framed in a real world way. It's interesting.
Kind of like Zombieland, rule number 2, like cardio.
Yeah, they had like lists like that. Like
That should be on that list.
isn't number 1 wear a seatbelt? I think it's like wear a seatbelt. No,
Yeah, probably.
or like be in shape or have endurance. I think it was.
Yeah, one of those.
So that's one of my favorite parts about Zombieland. I think makes it realistic is that one of his rules is cardio, because you're literally just like in so many zombie movies they're slow, but then we talked about this a little bit. Over time, I don't care what the zombies eat, they go a long time of just like rotting dead flesh. Their muscle like degeneration has just got to be like horrible. So there's no way they're equally as fast as they were even while they're alive. And the average living person isn't even that fast. So if you're just in good shape, you're kind of money, like no matter what. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not the good shape piece either. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. This is terrible. I'm just having random conversations with strangers about zombies. That if the CDC can have a website, then I suppose I can have random conversations about zombies.
Fair enough.
Fair.
It was. See, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So they might be slow, but they don't ever stop. They're like Terminators, right? It'll keep doing what it's going to do until it gets what it's going to get. Like, so you can run for as long as you want, but eventually you're going to have to sleep. You're going to have to stop and eat. You're going to have to go to the bathroom. You're going to have to do all these things. Zombie doesn't have to do that. Its only need is to feed and to attack you. That's it.
The
No
tortoise
matter
keeps
how
the
much
hair.
endurance you have, it has endless endurance. It will go until it's dead, until it's whatever, head's cut off or whatever.
I have a problem with that.
Okay, what's your problem?
At what point, like, can you run and like when you're out of the sight of a zombie, does it stop chasing you? Because like if you run 5 miles, and you do that in a half hour, let's say, there's no way a zombie's doing that. So let's say it takes a zombie twice as long. So you have a 2.5 mile gap between you and the zombie. Can zombies track people? Your wheels are turning. But like, are they tracking people by smell or what? Or like, at what point do they get distracted by another thing or a noise or what?
Okay, in a zombie apocalypse, do you think there is one zombie or thousands of zombies? So you can run for as long as you want. You're going to run into another one at some point, right? So you're going to get away from that one, but it's likely in the apocalypse means the end, right? There's going to be thousands, if not millions, in this world, and so you can run, but their mission doesn't ever stop. That's my point. Is they don't stop to go to the bathroom. They don't stop to do other things other than when they're distracted by other living things that they're going to attack. I mean, that's their only thing they do. You have multiple things in terms of survival that you have to do to survive. A zombie doesn't. But to that point, one of the most ridiculous things that I see from a lot of zombie movies that we've discussed how can they still move in some of these movies when they literally have no muscles left, no flesh? And first of all, how do they move when they do that? And second of all, how is it that their brain still is intact? And somehow, like I've watched The Walking Dead for every episode for, all these years. And the ones that blow my mind is like they will have been dormant for however long, and their brain still like years. Like they fast forwarded like 7 or 8 years in the future. And you still have zombies that were from the original apocalypse that are walking around. They're rotting off.
They found their why.
How's their brain still working?
Hold on.
Did I miss something? What did he say?
I said they found their why.
That might be
the title of the show.
That might be the worst argument and also the best argument, because I literally can't argue. I can't argue that. There's no counter argument to. They found their why.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh my God.
We have digressed.
Well, I guess that settles that.
End of discussion. That was a short show, 30 minutes. It's interesting that there's still this massive culture around it. And I think it's like people, I don't know, you want to put yourself in those shoes. It's like you want to see yourself as, Jack, I don't remember what were you referring to this as earlier when you were talking, I can see myself in this character. I can see myself in that character. Like we all want to put ourselves in a situation where that can happen, but we know it will likely not ever happen.
I don't even remember what I was saying, but.
So like, I think that's what you almost want, okay, like, I'm just curious how I would react to that. That's what I love about The Walking Dead. That's probably one of my favorite pieces of The Walking Dead is the character development within the show. Like you see people that were so vulnerable, you thought like, okay, they're not going to make it a day. And then they like make it a day and then make it another day and then make it another day. And it kind of shows human character and how when you're like pressed completely against the wall and you have to survive and you have to find your why, find a way, like regular humans, that stuff amazes me. I love the social psychology of the people that are fighting the zombies or trying to find a way, and like how much they evolve or do things that you could never think. Like in The Walking Dead, Rick refused to like kill anyone for any reason. Like he stuck to his morals for like 3 seasons, and then he was finally like, no, because you're trying to hurt my family. No, sorry. And it was
Rick killed a guy. Oh, sorry. Did you say Brick or Rick?
Rick, yeah. There were no tridents, no hand grenades.
Where'd you get a hand grenade? Sorry, quick aside there.
I don't know. Thoughts on the? I don't know if you guys ever like. That's my favorite piece about apocalyptic movies in general.
No, absolutely. I feel like that's why you enjoy watching it, is because like you put yourself in the character's shoes. Like I know exactly what you're talking about, because like when you're talking about seeing someone who like they're not going to make it, the first person I think about right now, I'm not sure if she's still in the show because I haven't watched this new season yet, but Maggie, when they find her, and it's like, oh, her and her sister aren't going to go that far, and then she makes it pretty much all the way. I know she was alive, but like not in the show towards the end, I think of season 9. So that's like the first thing I think of.
The only 2 that are left right now are Carol and Daryl from the original season, from their first episode.
Oh yeah, Carl. Never mind. No spoilers.
Not Carl, not Coral. Carol and Daryl are still there, and Carol was the best example. So Daryl, you thought like he's this hillbilly guy who knew how to track and hunt and take care of him. You're like, okay, he's gonna make it a long time. But Carol was like, she was this housewife, like didn't have a lot of other skills outside of being in the home. I think she was a nurse or something at some point, but you're like, she was so vulnerable at the beginning. You're like, she's going to get attacked and die like pretty quick. And then she's like a beast. She's like one of the alphas throughout the show. I love that character development. And then some people you just see crumble and you're like these big dudes that are super tough and strong and then they can't handle stuff.
So this is going to bring the IQ of the conversation down a peg here, but
How high was it to begin with?
well, you were just talking about, survival psychology. I feel like that's not a bad spot, but anyway, we're going to move down, and I'm going to ask simply, if a person is paralyzed and then they become a zombie, can the zombie walk?
Oh,
Wow.
Because zombies already kind of break a lot of like the laws of like physical nature. So like
I would assume so.
you would
I
think,
don't
yeah,
know.
it would get up and start walking.
That's tough. Because in a lot of the zombie films, they'll still struggle with things like if their leg is broken or what, they'll drag the leg behind them, but they'll still be able to move, or they'll like pull themselves. I don't know. I think it's you go back to what Jimmy said. Like they're they found their why, so they have. When there's a will, there is a way to move.
Why are we going back to that?
But because it's great, man. It's going to be the title of the show, I think. See, our guest provided the title of the show.
Happy to help.
Oh my
People,
Lord.
people are not going to know that this is about zombies, and they're going to be like, "Oh, found their why." I'm curious. This is going to be a great episode. Like, yeah, it's about zombies.
Well, it's valuable information nonetheless. Surely. And here's another thing. So zombies. So we're basing a lot of this off the Walking Dead universe. Obviously, there's a ton of different universes where zombies act completely differently. People become zombies when they die regularly in that universe. They die and then they come back and they're zombies. They're scratched, they become zombies, or they're bitten, they become zombies. So like, I would think there would be less zombies because if so many people are getting mauled by zombies, wouldn't they not leave any of the person left to become a zombie later?
So, The Walking Dead, just as a frame of reference, The Walking Dead's a little different because you find out, I think in the second season, that everyone on the planet has been infected already. So you already have it. So if you die, you become a zombie, period. So you don't even have to have, like, you die of any cause, natural cause, whatever, you become a zombie in The Walking Dead. So it's a different, just so you know.
So I get that part, but even by that rate, if the number of people who are killed by zombies would be astronomical, or like scratched or bitten or whatever, wouldn't they just be like devoured, like immediately by the zombie? There'd be
Yeah.
nothing left for them to walk around and be a zombie later.
Yeah, you do wonder. I think it comes back to the same point though. Like it's probably dependent on when they turn, right? Because they don't attack their own. So if they get attacked and they die and then they turn, then the zombies stop eating them because now they're a zombie. So that's the point when that stops. And that's not just Walking Dead. That seems to be like pretty universal.
Yeah, and think about like in that show, like when they're eating someone and they hear something, they immediately like pop up and they just leave what they're doing to go do something else. So that probably happens a lot as well. At least in the beginning, you'd assume.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about what my favorite zombie portrayal is. So, and I'm curious what your guys is too. I don't think it's the most realistic, but my favorite zombies, quote unquote, in any movie that I've seen is probably the ones from I Am Legend. They're really scary, they're fast, and they're organized, and like they set a trap for him. So like they're not like brainless, and then at the end you can tell like there's some kind of like thinking behind them. So in terms of those are terrifying zombies, and when I was watching that, I was just like, this was real, we would lose instantly. Those are my favorites.
I think I have a couple of different favorites. It just depends on the genre. So the first one's a serious one. So it would be, again, a lot like the genre of the movie that I just watched, that Cured, where it's very realistic. It's built around an extreme version of rabies, and so you could actually see it happening. Other than maybe the pack piece, how they're working in a pack, I don't know about that part, but like it seems realistic. Kind of like the a few years ago with bath salts. You hear about those guys that were like stripping down completely naked, and then they would like bite people.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I heard nothing about this.
Oh, okay. We'll come back to it because I want to get mine, and then we'll get our guests, and then we'll come back to this. So bath salts, remember that. But the other one is silly. So this is back in like the 80s. They had a group of zombies that literally just wanted brains, and they would walk around, and the zombies would just go brains. It was such a terrible, terrible movie because anytime like someone would come into view, like a human, they would just go brains, and then they walk really slow. It was so bad that it was good, and you can't turn away from it because it was like a funny zombie movie.
It's so dumb, it's genius.
Was,
So existential yet so accessible.
that's my other favorite, so I think that's hilarious. But anyway,
I think I'm not sure if you ever played this game. It's on I think it started on the phone, but like it's on like consoles as well. The Plants vs Zombies, and I wonder if they took that to make fun of that because the zombies when they come on the screen they yell brains, like that's the first thing they yell when they come on screen as well. So I wonder if they stole that from that.
probably.
I love those zombies. That might be an answer changer for me because those zombies leave notes and stuff like for the person living in their house, and it's just like we are coming for your brains. Love zombies.
Yep.
That's so good.
It is a really good game too.
That's a very good game. They made it like a first-person shooter out of it.
Did they really?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Incredible. So is that your answer then, Jimmy? That's your favorite zombies?
Yeah, it was a toss-up between that and just the Call of Duty Nazi zombies, just because like I play that so much, like growing up, and like that's like the main zombies I know. I don't think it really has anything to do with the zombies themselves. Maybe more Plants vs Zombies. That's a different type of zombie, but like the Call of Duty one is just like I've stuck so many hours with like friends and family into that. So like that'd probably be it.
So they basically raised you.
They did. You could say
Raised by Nazi zombies.
yeah.
T-shirt idea?
Molded by
Probably not a good T-shirt idea.
Okay, bad T-shirt idea.
Bad T-shirt ideas.
Okay, put that one on the list.
Alex will take bad T-shirt ideas for 500. So bath salts. This was crazy. I don't remember how long ago. 10, 15 years ago. It was a while ago. It happened in a couple of different locations, and it happened around the same time. It was like, I want to say it was like in Los Angeles. It happened once, and gosh, I don't remember. It was another big city, but I'd have to look a little bit more into it again, the research behind it. But it's a certain like neurotoxin drug, like psychedelic type thing, but it makes you think that your body temperature is really, really high. And so then people would strip completely naked, and then they'd be delirious, and they'd run out. Like the one example was a guy ran out onto the highway and like attacked somebody and started like trying to like eat the person, or like they were biting really aggressively. So people thought it was rabies, but it ended up being this bath salts thing. And so people like legitimately thought, they're like, oh, the zombies are here now. Like got these bath salts. And so that's probably the most realistic that's actually happened recently.
Documented at least.
Documented, that's true.
So looking up the history, there's documented cases of like people rising from the grave. There's actually a guy that wrote let's see if I can find it again, but there was a guy that wrote an actual research article on zombies, and he came up with the name for it, like the name for the disease for the zombies. Oh man, I wish I had that pulled right up. I don't have my dual screens tonight, so I can't like pull up my research like I did last time.
You need your readers to see that screen.
What was that? Yeah, so I don't know. I can't remember, but I'll have to look that up some other time. Maybe that'll be for another show, because we could do zombies for a long time, so we could make it like another episode 2.55 or whatever.
What has greater endurance, this show or zombies?
Oh, this show.
This show.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So, but you did kind of segue me into one of the origins that you didn't mention. One of the origins of zombies. There was a disease in the early 1500s when Columbus sailed to the Americas. He brought back with him. He actually died of this disease, and you would get like these like open sores, and flesh would fall off your body, and like all this stuff, and then you wouldn't be able to walk normal, and all your joints would ache so bad that you would like have that like zombie limp kind of thing going on. So there was panic across Europe. Turns out, since no one knew what it was just untreated syphilis. So one of the origins of like what does a zombie look like is an untreated case of syphilis that ravaged Europe after Columbus brought it back in the 1500s. And apparently there's some immunity, now that I've like looked this up a little bit. The people who already lived in the Americas were immune to the disease. So they didn't have to worry about it. So I was also like, there's a population of the world now, if they're descended from like that bloodline, who are immune to syphilis, which is just an interesting fun fact. Or maybe it's not. Doesn't really matter.
It's pretty interesting.
It's a fact.
It is a fact. It might not even be a fact. That's the other thing.
That's
I looked it up
interesting.
on the internet, which is...
Oh, it's definitely true then.
Yeah, it has to be.
You're right. Sorry. Reliable anonymous source.
It's interesting stuff. Did that have to like? So did it kill off a bunch of Native Americans because of that? Did a bunch of Native Americans die off?
No, so it's the other way around. So like the Native Americans would have been the ones immune to it, and Columbus brought it back to Europe and they weren't immune to it.
Because a lot of times it was the other way around, right? We would bring diseases from. That's interesting. Based on that, now we're going to digress into a different topic, kind of, but not really, I guess. I was reading it was one of the Gladwell books, was talking about like, I think it was in one of the Gladwell books. He was talking about like infant mortality rates in like the 1700s or whatever, and like why they were super, super high. And it ultimately, long story short, it came down to the doctors just needed to wash their hands because they were treating or having women give birth in the hospitals in the same beds where they were doing research on cadavers, and they weren't cleaning their hands or the beds, the tables. And so like the moms and the babies would die more frequently in the hospitals than they would with a midwife at home, which you'd think would be complete opposite. And they like couldn't figure out what was going on. And somebody came in and was like, it's literally because you're not washing your hands and you're not cleaning. Simple. Like that's it. So it makes you think about
running water back then. So
right. And that was, so there wasn't running water, but it was like, so it would have been a lot harder to do so, but them simply washing hands and cleaning the surfaces they were working on saved, like it was a big change. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a big change in that. And so maybe doing those things would prevent things like the zombie apocalypse. Do you think we're preventing the zombie apocalypse right now because we have to like wear masks and wash our hands and stay away from people? Maybe that is out there and we're missing it now.
Well, we don't know that COVID isn't the first stage of a zombie virus that could develop over the course of years. I don't know if the data supports that at this point, but definitely doesn't refute it.
I don't know if the data supports that.
It doesn't refute it. I don't know what to tell you. In 10 years from now, it could be like, yep, COVID is actually a zombie virus that lays dormant for 10 years, and then bang, zoop, bop, game over.
Did I tell you? Game over. Did I tell you the other day I saw somebody posted, and I've been off Facebook for like a week now. But I saw, so the other day is 2 weeks ago, whatever. I saw somebody posted like, in 5 years or 10 years, we're going to start like seeing commercials from law firms. It's like, if you have a debilitating disease from all the chemicals that you had to take in during the coronavirus pandemic, you may be entitled to a settlement. I mean, like,
Did you use super high strength hand sanitizer that got in your eyes or mouth during the coronavirus pandemic? You may be entitled to compensation.
it's like a whole Aaron Brockovich thing all over again.
You know, that one I could actually believe because we had to make this cleaning solution today and I inhaled some of it. And this is the one that we talked about earlier that's apparently safe enough to drink. I inhaled it from a little too close and my throat was on fire. It was bad. And then I had like a headache for the next 10 minutes and I was just like, and we're just spraying this stuff all over, like every building.
Well, everywhere, like the whole plant, like every restaurant you go into, or I don't know. Do you guys? Am I going to get you in trouble if I ask you this and you're honest? Right?
Well, you can't get the guest in trouble. I'm sure that
spraying things down at the with different chemicals than you used in the past.
not different chemicals, but just
More
more often. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not going to be the conspiracy theorist who's like, stop using cleaning chemicals and be that guy. That's the wrong thing to do. But I'm just saying some level of, tentative concern is probably healthy, but probably still clean things.
Yeah. We don't want to be like Dwight on The Office and just rub our hands and face in filth. That won't help either. There's a nice balance. You gotta have a nice balance. Little filth, little clean. Just a nice balance. Okay, I think we're digressing. We're running out of steam here on our zombie topic.
Look, I gotta be honest, I could go for longer, but I am conscious of the time. And I was like, if I open up a few of these cans of worms, then we're never gonna be able to end this.
Yeah, you got a busy night ahead of you too, right? You got a good show you gotta watch.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't watch The Bachelorette, then I won't be able to look at any of the memes. So
the rest of your week is ruined.
The rest of the week is shot. It's like you miss the Bears game and then someone spoils it. You have it recorded. That's a week ruiner. Missing The Bachelorette and seeing a lot of memes, that's a week ruiner. They're basically on the same page.
I don't even know where to start with that.
He just compared football to Bachelorette. That's all you have to know.
I'm sorry.
Do you know how many former pro football players are on that show? A lot. It's like watching a Bears.
Any good ones?
It's like watching a Bears game.
Pretty much is. What's that now?
Any good ones?
Well, I mean, compared to us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, compared to that, I'm not saying I'm a good player, but I have a low budget podcast though, so
extremely low.
Very low. You get what you pay for, folks.
Write that down.
All right. So thank you, Jimmy, for our guest, for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited for you to be the inaugural guest, the initial guest of our future. We're gonna be millionaires soon, and you'll have been the first guest, and then
oh yeah.
I don't know.
Our first episode
I'll be entitled to like 2%.
It's officially at dozens of views after it hit 24 views. So I feel like having a guest is going to at least double that.
So, folks out there, subscribe. We're excited for our next topic next week. I think Jack and I have a pretty good, Mr. Bald over there and I have a pretty good option for next week. But if you have suggestions, ideas, as you can see, we can talk about just anything. Forever and ever. But
you guys have an Instagram or Twitter going for it?
We don't yet.
All right, calm down there.
That going. I could retweet it or repost it.
Mr. Technology, Mr. Gaming Chair down there.
I didn't notice he was in a gaming chair, but yeah, nice.
Yeah, my dad's company got it for like their whole office, And then like one of the manager higher up was like, no, that's not happening. So then my dad just got to take 2 home for free. So now we have 2 at home.
Score.
That's great.
And your back is in great shape.
So
Oh yeah.
so we're gonna show you. Okay, before we close the show, so you've got your gaming chair. Jack, what you sitting on a couch?
I'm
right?
sitting on a couch, yeah.
All right, we'll show mine.
Is this the famous? Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm old. That's why.
And I'm bald.
I'm guessed.
And he's guessed. Thanks everybody. I'm excited. Hopefully soon maybe we'll get an Instagram up. Maybe we'll get some social media going. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit, but I'll tell you what, for those that watch, if we can get 50 people, 50, because we got to 24, 25 this week, if we can double that, we get to 50, we'll create a whole social media platform. We'll start to add some more things to this, some flashiness. 50 people, we'll start to do some more. So there you go. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, I'm old.
I'm bald.
And I'm guessed.
Thank you. Hold on.